Welcome to Psychology Today. This is a show about bicycling in general and specifically about bicycle safety. Thank you for joining us. And I'm Ann Morrow, and I'm the host. And thank you in advance to our behind-the-scenes crew working in the control booth that makes this show possible. And of course, thank you to Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, who produces the show. At Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, we've been working this summer on a lot of projects. We just finished up Beaverton, Banks, and Beyond Bicycle Tour in August. And I want to thank all of you for your ongoing support. We had a record number of riders this year, and we're so grateful for all of you for coming out. And based on the comments that we've been hearing, it was a very successful event, not only as indicated by the rider numbers, but just the comments that people had a great time and appreciated the support and our sponsors' contributions of food and things. So it was a great event, and thank you. I'd encourage you to put Beaverton, Banks, and Beyond on your 2015 cycling bucket list, and you can watch our website for information and the specifics of what date it will be next year. We certainly plan to do that again because it's a way for us to raise money for our ongoing programs of educating young people on safe riding, legal riding, and putting helmets on their heads. So thank you again for your support. And certainly thank you to our sponsors for their ongoing generous assistance. We have sponsors that stick with us year after year. So with the funds that we've raised with Beaverton, Banks, and Beyond and our sponsors and donations, we'll be able to continue forward with our mission. And our mission at Northwest Bicycle Safety Council is to educate and promote safety and harmony between cyclists and others who share the road, as well as strengthen community and family ties through cycling-related programs and events. And that's our mission. Well, let's get on with our show. We have two segments, two guests, and two nonprofits represented on our show. And first we'll learn about Bikes for Humanity, PDX, and Stephen Kung will be describing their goals and activities. And after a quick break, we'll have Matthew Vilhauer from Bike Clark County, and he will share that organization's missions and objectives. So let's meet our first guest, and welcome Stephen Kung. Thank you.
Hi, Ann.
Hi. Thanks for coming to Psychology Today. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you very much for having me on your show. I am a Portland resident since 1999. I have two daughters who go to OSU and are hopefully graduating next year as a college children, student parent.
Yes.
I'm always hoping that they can finish.
It will end soon.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been living in the Portland area since 1999, and I've worked in the high-tech area in the Portland industry sector, and as well as commuting to California, between Portland and California, also working in high tech. So my background is an electrical engineer.
I see.
Yeah, and I've been involved with this organization about since 2005.
Well, boy, you're very busy then.
Yes.
And it's always interesting to know how people with ordinary lives add some volunteer work into their already busy schedule. So what's your own cycling history, and how does bicycling fit into your lifestyle?
Yeah, I started cycling when I was at a fairly young age in Taiwan, where I grew up, and I actually commuted back and forth to school using my father's very, very tall 27-inch bicycle. And after that, my family moved to Southern California, and I continued to commute to school on a bicycle into high school until when I turned 16, I actually purchased a car, become a driver, and stopped riding a bicycle for a long time. In my early 20s, I recreationally cycled. And then for about 15 years, I actually did not ride a bicycle at all until I came to Portland. And the Portland bike community actually inspired me to get back on my bike, use it as a means of recreation and athletic activities and for exercise. And then also gradually I started getting engaged with bicycle advocacy and got myself I took myself through the course of United Bicycle Institute in Ashland,
Oh, yeah.
Oregon, and then got very interested in mechanics of bicycle, and then I actually worked in the bicycle industry for a few years as well. So, and currently I just can't wait to get on my bicycle whenever I have free time.
So, Northwest Bicycle Safety Council sometimes partners with Bikes for Humanity, PDX. We have similar goals, similar ambitions,
Right.
and similar missions, I'd say. I think most of us are familiar with the concept of Habitat for Humanity, and I think Bikes for Humanity is somewhat similar in that concept, but we'll talk about that. What drew you personally to Bikes for Humanity?
Actually, I was one of 4 original founders that all graduated from United Bicycle Institute, and in late winter of 2005, we decided that we wanted to start free public tune-up clinics and classes for just the general public to impart our knowledge, but also try to get people to be more aware about how to be self-reliant on their own bicycles. And so that was mainly the thrust, is trying to create some sort of a public service so that there will be less of a barrier to entry to become a bike commuter.
So I think that's often forgotten, is the maintenance of the bike, that you've got this vehicle that,
Right.
and people just hop on it and go, not remembering that things go wrong or tires need air. So
Precisely, yeah.
and so is that kind of where you were coming from initially?
Yeah. So initially, that's what we were seeing. We were seeing a lot of families that wouldn't be able to afford, working bicycles, or bicycles that are actually going to be safely maintained after they purchase them, whether from a bike shop or from the department store. And a lot of families, even in this area with the affluence, still find themselves having some challenges financially to be able to get themselves a safe and operable bike. So our objective was to hopefully reduce that barrier by, first of all, enabling them to be able to purchase or be granted or earn bicycles that are going to be safely operable, and then to maintain them, to train them individually to have some sort of mechanical skill. So starting from the simplest, tire fix, chain fix, simple adjustments, to completely overhauling the entire bike. We like to show people those kinds of skills and provide the information, and as well as the workspace to be able to work on their own bikes.
Sure. And I would think that kind of knowledge and learning those skills is empowering to some people, and overlaps, that confidence then overlaps into other areas of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people, especially sometimes when we work with other nonprofits, there are a lot of people going through transitions, and no matter what kind of experiences they had in the past or what kind of situation they find themselves in life, it's not dissimilar from traveling and perhaps finding a mode of transportation, whether you're walking there, you're biking there, you're driving there. It's that experience that you go through, and when you run into difficulties, if you have the skills, if you have the tools, if you have other people willing to help you, then you're that much more likely to overcome these challenges and focus on your life goals. So that's where we think that we are providing some assistance to alleviate the challenges of transportation.
Makes sense. So what role do you play with Bikes for Humanity, PDX?
Yeah, so currently I am a steering committee member, and we have just a handful of steering committee members that run the organization. We are a fiscally sponsored project of Impact Northwest. It's another nonprofit organization that's been in the Portland area since 1966. So I volunteer currently full-time for Bikes for Humanity, and I also volunteer at the bike shop that we currently have. So I instruct as a teacher, and then I volunteer as a bike mechanic. I help to plan events and also communicate with other outside partners in trying to start other projects in other communities.
Okay. So your tagline is because everyone deserves a bike, and you were kind of going through that philosophy a little bit earlier. Generally speaking, how does that tagline tie in as you plan things for Bikes for Humanity?
Right. So we believe in the organization that we ought to leverage all the resources that are available to us, the goodwill from the public in terms of resources that are donated to us, whether are bikes, parts, or monetary gifts, and also the time and energy goodwill that volunteers have afforded us. So we believe in exercising all of those to their maximum potential in order to achieve the goal of creating bike commuters that are self-empowered. And so we try to not scrap parts as much as possible, not to scrap bikes as much as possible, to reuse and sometimes even repurpose them for our objective. So that's where we see that everyone should be able to afford afford a bicycle, and there's enough resources within our own community and goodwill to be able to hopefully allow every person to be able to get a bike.
And it sounds like you're being successful. Now, you mentioned Impact Northwest as kind of a sponsor. How do they tie into what you do?
So Impact Northwest has the 501c3. That's a IRS status for nonprofit public charities. So they have the sponsor status as the one that has the IRS 501c3 ID number.
I see.
And so they organize all of the financial reporting necessary for us to run as a nonprofit, meeting our public charity goals. And they collect all the money that we take in from the public, and then they disperse reimbursements to pay for all the expenses, and they oversee all of our activities and contracts and partnerships with other organizations to make sure that we are on track with our purpose.
Well, that sounds like a real benefit, that you're under their umbrella, so to speak, and you're not having to hassle with that bookkeeping element of it. You can do what your mission, what you want to do.
Right.
Okay. Now, you have some physical locations in Portland, if I'm not mistaken. Why don't you tell us about those, where they're located and what you use them for?
Sure, sure. So we've grown over the years, almost 10 years now, from very small locations such as people's living rooms, the back of bike shops that were nice to us to lend us some room, people's basements, to eventually a garage that was in Southeast Portland. We had that garage for about 7 years for free, rent-free and utility-free. And so recently, in the last 4 months, we've moved to a commercial location. It's at 33rd Place in Powell in Southeast Portland. So we've been there and very successful in being able to outlet and grant the bikes that we have, and also take in public service and teach classes out of that location. So that's at 3354 Southeast Powell Boulevard. We also are starting up a second location in partnership with Central City Concern. It is at their estate building at Southwest 2nd and Cooch. And that is about 1,600 square foot location that they've granted to us for Bikes for Humanity to manage a workshop and a co-op that would enable Central City Concern's own staff volunteers as well as client volunteers to come in and learn how to refurbish bicycles and be able to also earn the granted bicycles through our program.
I see. Boy,
so that's a second location, yeah.
You're really busy with, to have 2 locations.
Yeah.
I appreciated the statement on the website that Bikes for Humanity PDX, which promotes a sense of empowerment and ownership rather than a sense of entitlement for each bike adoption. So if you could elaborate a little bit on that concept for us.
Sure, sure. Yeah, we have experience through the number of years working with clients and various programs and other nonprofit organizations that if you instill the sense of ownership in a financial aid application or grantee of bicycles, that they will more likely to hold on to the bike and use it for transportation purposes rather than perhaps selling it, trading it, or neglecting it. And so what we would like to do, and we manifest this in our financial aid application and approval policy, that we actually encourage the individual when they are capable and have the time to join us in refurbishing the bike that they're to be granted. And so in that case, it usually takes about 9 to 10 hours, about 3 days, for them to, be in the same environment as us, our volunteers, and we wrench on the bike together. And in those cases, they can also customize the bike to their own personal needs. And at the end of that, many of them have said, wow, I feel really proud that I have accomplished this. In fact, I've learned all these different skills. In case anything gets broken, now I know how to fix it, or at least I know where to come to ask for help. And so in that way, we believe that that empowers that individual to have a more long-term solution rather than a quick fix, perhaps, that they may not be able to keep for a long time.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Let's discuss some of the many elements of Bikes for Humanity. You talked about bike donation and adoption. So people donate bikes, and then, like you say, you might refurbish them or whatever, and somebody adopts them. Kind of walk us through that, if you would, please.
So we, as a 501c3 fiscally sponsored by a public charity, we are able to give people charitable contribution receipts for tax deduction purposes. So any bicycle or parts or even monetary gifts that people donate to us, they can receive a charitable contribution receipt. We then teach our volunteers through completely free classes exactly how to refurbish these bikes, going through very methodical procedures. And then in our own workshop, they can come in and refurbish the bikes, and gradually, through many volunteers' efforts, a bike can be taken from a dilapidated state into a high-performing bicycle that is capable of being used for commuting or otherwise transport goods and people. And so in that way we help not only the volunteers but also the people who will be receiving the bikes or perhaps adopting the bikes at very affordable prices. And so that's how we actually accomplish that area of our objective.
And you have after-school programs in bicycle physics and bicycle mechanics.
So we are currently teaching a bicycle mechanics class every week on Thursdays for our own volunteers. And anyone from the public can join as a volunteer and sign up for these classes that occurs every Thursday night. And that is where we actually train up a whole bunch of our volunteers that eventually go outside to do free public tune-ups or come back into our workshops and refurbish the bicycles. We also have a curriculum called Bicycle Physics, which is targeting 4th graders to 8th graders. And it uses the bicycle as a hands-on laboratory to teach the fundamental principles of physics to children. And this is our effort of trying to inspire younger children to be interested in the bicycle, not just as a toy, but actually as a marvelous machine that has a lot of ingenuity and inventiveness within it, and also helps the parents to understand that the bicycle is something that they ought to treasure and cherish and provide for their children, and not in just being a toy, but as a tool of education and also in self-empowerment.
What an interesting concept. And then you have the public tune-up clinics, and I think you kind of mentioned those, and those go through the basics, as you said, like fixing a flat, and what are some of the other things that get taught?
Yeah, so at the public tune-up clinics, we generally will try our best to tune up, basically fix anything that we can see is wrong or the rider is complaining about the bicycle. And that extends beyond fixing flats, making adjustments. We also actually, sometimes take apart hubs. We take apart, we take apart cassettes in the rear gear cluster, and we try to fix everything we can based on how many tools we have actually brought to the event. And at all the Sunday Parkway events, we actually bring a lot of tools. We do it by bicycle and bike move all the equipment with trailers, and then carry it to the location, deploy the tent, and then start fixing people's bikes. And so there are a lot of repeat customers, if you will, that come to our tune-up clinics, and you can see how their bike has held up, event after event, and they're still working correctly. And so the volunteers find it very rewarding as well to apply the skills that they have learned. And it's something that not a lot of people have the opportunity to do, because it costs a lot of money a lot of times to take classes, in commercial settings. And so having a nonprofit organization that would just teach you for free, and all you need to do is pay it forward and volunteer to help other people, I think creates a lot of opportunities.
It sounds like it, and it must be really fun to see the fruits of your rewards and some of these kids and their folks coming back.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Really a part of a community. Now, you have a community bike school? Yes.
So that was the concept of our nonprofit. It starts out from being a place of education. So it's a community bike school, and we call ourselves a nonprofit bike school. And it's just that people donate bikes to us and we fix them, and that's one of our revenue streams, is by presenting those bikes back to the community, and so people can adopt them and provide revenues for us to continue our mission. And so in that sense, we're actually taking the goodwill of people and adding value to something that would have otherwise been either thrown away or scrapped, and putting it back out in the community as a solution. So,
well, certainly bike repair and maintenance is not just physics and all that, but it's a safety issue, because you want people to be safe on their vehicle. So what emphasis do you put on safety in your classes and things?
So every bicycle that we refurbish, we focus on 100 points of checking. We have a refurbishment checklist, and a bicycle without completing these 100 points is not allowed to be adopted. And so when we finish those 100-point checklists, then it has to be test ridden, and we check for all the safety necessity, professionally, to make sure that the bike is safe for riding. And we also have a program that we provide helmets at our cost to anyone who comes in and asks for it. And it's a program that we inherited from another nonprofit organization. It's called Protect Your World. And so we don't try to make money off of helmet sales. We just try to break even and continue to purchase helmets so that the public can have it at an very affordable price.
So helmets aren't the law in Oregon. A person over the age of 16 doesn't have to wear a helmet. How do you promote wearing helmets for adults?
So we, in our own events, we always ask people to, ask our volunteers to be wearing helmets. And that's generally every time we do a bike move. Anytime we see people riding off without a helmet, we encourage them to, purchase one of our helmets, or we will grant them helmets. And at donation adoption drives, we very often partner with Northwest Bicycle Safety Council in granting helmets outright to people who need them, or replacing the ones that may be out of date, or not functioning properly, not fitting properly. And so every year we probably go through about several hundred helmets through our various programs, and within in-house as well as with partners.
Good. Well, we're all about helmets too.
Right.
What are some of the immediate future activities of Bikes for Humanity?
So currently, this year in March, we have just incorporated as a Oregon nonprofit entity ourselves.
Oh.
And so we are now proceeding to apply for 501c3 status with IRS. We have a generous law firm that has offered their pro bono services to us. And so we are very close. On the 15th of September, we'll be sending in our application. And Impact Northwest, our fiscal sponsor, is very supportive of this. And so their COO is actually reviewing our application and giving us guidance so that hopefully in the near future we will be our own 501c3. And in that case, then it will open up a lot of doors to grants.
I see.
Yeah, and fundraising. So hopefully that will be able to allow us to be able to create more programs in other communities or at other nonprofit organizations. So that's our most immediate goal.
That's big. That's a big jump. You're kind of flying the nest here from
right.
from your umbrella. And so based on that, then, what are your long-range goals? Do you see more programs coming into play? It sounds like you've got a good, solid base. Are you just trying to grow that, or do you have other ambitions?
Precisely. We believe in education and empowerment. So we are very focused on creating the curriculum to teach, whether to teach to adults, whether to teach in an environment of other nonprofit organizations with their own clients, or to children in a school setting or after-school program setting. So that's what we think is going to really, spread the knowledge base that we have and replicate the model that we have created and demonstrated through the last 10 years of work, that it can be self-sustaining. It does not cost very much money, and it needs the public's goodwill, and it does not require a huge amount of infrastructure to do. So what we like to see are the replication of small co-ops and workshops in nonprofit organizations in public schools, particularly high schools. So we really like to enable high schools that have volunteers, whether within their faculty or within the parent community, together with the students, to be able to create these bike co-ops. Very similar to what college campuses, university campuses usually have, is a self-sustaining co-op that has tools, that have volunteers that come in, whether interns, paid or unpaid volunteers, they can figure it out. But to be able to have the facility so that bike commuters coming to that location would have an affordable way to maintain their mode of transportation, which is bicycling.
Right. Well, just one last question, and just briefly, if time and money was not a hindrance, wave the magic wand, what would you do with Bikes for Humanity?
I think continue to leverage the success we've had and help others also achieve their goals. There are a lot of we've heard a lot of other communities that need such type of community bike schools and community bicycling shops, but they don't have the know-how, they don't have the resources, and many of them think that it requires a lot of money in order to set up. What we have demonstrated and learned is that it doesn't require that much, but it does require someone who has done it before, someone who's willing to help and who's not going to charge a lot of money. And so that's where we think we can bring a lot of value. We've trained up many volunteers that are very enthusiastic, and we are in contact with other community leaders and nonprofit coordinators, if you will, and they have a lot of interest in us helping them start up their own bike co-op. So Bikes for Humanity has committed to provide free tools, free bicycles, as well as free instruction for any community organization that wants to start their own bike co-op. As long as it stays as a nonprofit enterprise, that follows our nonprofit mission, then we're very, very happy to help.
Well, thank you. Stephen Kung here from Bikes for Humanity, PDX, and really appreciate all you're doing for the community and helping everybody that wants a bicycle to be able to get a bicycle, really. And so that's really great. Thank you. We're going to go to a video now about bicycle safety, and then we'll come back to our second guest, Matthew Vilhauer, and he's from Bike Clark County. So let's watch a video, and then we'll be back.
Ride single file in the same direction as traffic. Obey traffic signs and signals. Signal your turns and look behind you before you turn. And always stay alert. So just think of your helmet as part of your gear. You don't see a soccer player without shin guards.
You don't see a basketball player without shoes.
So don't ride your bike without your helmet. It's part of the gear.
Ride safe, ride smart. It's time to start today.
So a quick safety video about bicycle safety, and those are always good reminders for adults and children. And thank you for joining us. We're back now with Psychology Today, and our second guest is Matthew Vilhauer, and he's from Bike Clark County. And we're interested in all the things that are going on in the bicycling community in the Portland metro area. So certainly Washington County, Clackamas County, Multnomah County, and Clark County, which is in the state of Washington. And so welcome, Matthew. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a longtime Vancouver resident, grew up there, moved away, moved back, starting a family there. I'm an artist, a small business owner, and I work in a bike shop.
Wow, okay. So I'm a Vancouver resident too, and bicycle around the community. Why don't you tell us about your cycling history and how the bicycle fits into your lifestyle right now?
Like most kids, I started riding a bike, kept with it through junior high and almost to high school, and once I got a car, started driving for a while, used a bike in college to commute, and really started getting back into it in my early 20s, mountain biking and some bike touring and things like that.
So how do you said starting a family, do you have children at home?
We're expecting in January.
Ah, okay.
So, yeah.
Sometimes that impacts the bicycling in one way or another, either
Yeah.
more or less.
Hopefully more.
Good. And what's your favorite bicycle ride right now?
I really like doing the West Hills.
Oh.
Coming down to the Esplanade. The Esplanade at night, coming back is really nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your relationship with Bike Clark County?
I'm one of the shop leads.
Okay. What does that mean?
I keep the doors open when we have volunteers to come in during bike work sessions, or when we have kids coming in to do repair sessions on their bikes, and then the second half would be the bike safety clinic.
Okay.
So we do two-part clinics in the bike shop, as well as prepping bikes for donations and bikes for sale as well.
Okay. And you're pretty, well, I'm going to get ahead of myself here. I want to thank you for representing Bike Clark County here on Psychology Today. And, like Stephen Kung just talked about, Bikes for Humanity, PDX, and Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, there are a lot of people that are really concerned about bicycle safety, making sure our children are safe riding bicycles, and we're all kind of working in tandem with the same objectives, I think. So I appreciate you coming to talk about what's going on in Clark County.
Sure.
Now, what compelled you personally? How did you get involved with Bike Clark County?
I was involved volunteering with a couple different other organizations, some that kind of got started and really never went anywhere, and was looking for something basically to get involved with that I could do the nuts and bolts stuff, doing bike parking setups and things like that. We've inherited more or less a bike parking setup from the city of Vancouver and use it at the concert series at Esther Short Park, and we have volunteers that do the Fort Vancouver parking as well.
Okay.
And basically bike advocacy as well. Having input on bike routes and where sharrows should be placed. And I live in the northwest neighborhood, so the 39th Street alignment was pretty critical for my commute as far as, you know, the bicycle network there.
And yes, and I think sharrows have been a bit of an issue in Vancouver as well.
Yeah.
So, so you do the bike advocacy. The bike parking situation? So is that something you collect a little bit of money for? For instance, if there's an event at Esther Short Park,
we would do donations, yes,
Oh,
but we don't
donations.
charge for the parking or
see.
anything. It's just a PR opportunity for us to get our name out there.
Okay.
The city printed bike maps and little bike info cards so that if you had debris and road hazards or emergencies, you could call, like a little number card. So we give out things like that, and blinky lights. The city did that as well for us. But yeah,
Okay.
just a little outreach.
So you work a lot with the city then?
I mostly work in the shop.
Okay,
I work with the shop.
but all right.
But we do, as an organization, we do a lot of things in tandem with the city, and we get a lot of support from the city as well.
It sounds like it. Now, Bike Clark County is fairly new. I think I gather that your third anniversary is coming up.
We just turned 4
You
this
just turned
spring.
4. Okay.
Yeah, and the bike safety program that we do in the public schools was actually established about 10 years before we took it over. And then we've refined it, modified it, and expanded it a little.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the Bike Clark County's founder and president, Eric Giancino.
Yeah, Eric, he's a first responder, father of twin daughters, and he has a vested interest in seeing kids not get run over by cars. That's the nuts and bolts of why we exist, is so we don't have those interactions that he has to go deal with.
That would be motivating when you see him firsthand like that. And I know other people that are in trauma situations, maybe in a hospital, that, got motivated to do something about that.
Well, and I think most folks that commute and have been on a bike long enough have had those bad interactions, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm involved with it as well, and with the bike safety and advocacy, because it needs to be safer for cyclists. It's just too dangerous right now.
Okay, and so part of that is advocacy and part of it is teaching.
Teaching the proper rules of the road, how to ride safe, how to ride legal. And so if everyone's doing what they should be doing, it makes for a safer environment for everyone.
Absolutely. How does Bike Clark County support itself?
It's mainly through donations, public donations. We do solicit grants. We've received some federal grants and statewide things for supporting the programs that we do.
And you're a standalone nonprofit.
Yes,
then.
we are a 501c3.
Okay. About 10 months ago, looking at the website, Eric mentioned some accomplishments, and those included 600 elementary and middle school kids who attended the group's bike safety and education programs, 50 bikes repaired and donated to lower-income children, and the group's role in organizing the first Open Streets event in Vancouver, and, like you say, the advocating for the addition of bike lanes along a major bicycle corridor. So tell us a little bit about some of those programs that happened and that are happening.
The main program that we run is bike safety education through the public schools. Currently we have 4 middle schools that we partner with. We had partnered with another school, an elementary school. Mainly I think it's that age group.
Yes.
Once they hit junior high school, they're a little bit more receptive to it. But we teach bike safety through the PE classes. So there's 30 kids per class, 7 classes per school, and that's 600 kids that are impacted.
Yeah.
And we fit everyone with a helmet that doesn't have a safe helmet, that doesn't have one that's current. Helmets get old, they get bad. And most of our helmets go towards the school programs. But we do also some outreach with Vancouver Housing Authority and the Boys and Girls Club. The school programs we do just with volunteers, and we don't receive any fee for service. We're just starting to explore that a little bit with like the Boys and Girls Club.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So walk us through one of your bike safety classes at the schools. What all would that entail that would help the children learn to ride legally and safely?
Well, they break out the rodeo kit, which is they have the cones and the yield and the stop signs, and they have a little bit of on-campus time. And it's a 2-week process, and at the end, they're riding their bikes in groups and in bike trains around the community.
And so you have volunteers taking them out eventually
Yes.
out on the road.
Well, and we have 2 volunteers that pair with the PE teacher for every class. So it's fairly volunteer intensive.
Now, how exactly do you incorporate safety and learning the laws to middle school kids? How does Bike Clark County do that?
Well, that's mostly the folks that teach the classes. I'm kind of the shop guy.
Okay.
I've helped out with some of the classes that they had some bike rodeos set up at like the Houck Elementary School when we did a free bike repair day. And we also took in some bikes as donations and gave away some bikes as well. So mostly my role is doing setup and takedown and keeping the doors open and the lights on sort of thing. But with middle schoolers, I think just engaging them is the main thing. They're really gassed to see someone interested in something they're interested in. They like learning new stuff, and they'll bring it back and teach in the neighborhood as well.
Well, and I think sometimes just adults riding with them, showing them by example how to use, how to stop at a stop sign, follow the laws and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Great. Now, 2 summers ago, Bike Clark County unfortunately had a fleet of their bikes stolen.
Yeah, we
from
did.
the Houck pool. And we in Vancouver know you've been storing all these bikes in an empty swimming pool at Houck Elementary. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened with that situation?
Well, there was break-in, and we lost 16 bikes. We recovered 1, but it was too far gone to rehab it. They caught 2 people that were responsible for it, and they spent a little jail time. But as a result, Fred Myers stepped up and gave us a grant to purchase another 12 bikes of even nicer quality, better quality. So we've got a few good partners in the community that have helped us with that. And Houck was extremely generous in donating the shop that we had. We had a lot of room for bikes to store things, to do workshops where we've got 3 or 4 stands set up and a dozen kids with volunteers. But now we're in a little smaller spot.
Yes. Yeah, and for those that don't live in Vancouver, it's just one of those situations where the elementary school wasn't an elementary school. You got to use part of it while it sat empty.
Yeah, it was.
And some of the community was missing their swimming pool. They were dismayed to not be able to swim, but all the same. And now it's being repurposed again, so you had to move.
Yep, it's going to be a early childhood education center.
Okay, and so you did get another location. Where are you going? Where are you now?
We are actually in the Burgerville headquarters on Main Street. About the 1600 block of Main Street. They've got kind of their workshop, and repair barn for their equipment and vehicles, and they weren't using it very much, underutilized. And so they walled off some space for us and gave us a roll-up door and said, here you go.
Boy, that's great. I know you put out a plea for
we
space.
did, and they came to us. They found out we were in need, that we were looking for a place, and it was fairly motivated by a time schedule.
Yes.
Because they were looking to develop the Houck pool, and it's very close. We only had to move 3-4 blocks, and it's a little bit more conducive to doing roll-up doors and getting a little bit more foot traffic as far as presence. We don't have a brick and mortar bike shop, so to speak, but we get a lot of interest when we roll up the door on a Saturday and have volunteers there as well.
Well, that's great news.
So, and that's something we're developing.
Yeah, Right. It'll evolve. Now, bike theft, we talked about Bike Clark County has suffering a theft, and it's a problem for everyone, not just you specifically. What advice would you give to cyclists, especially new cyclists, about theft and how to prevent it?
Use a U-lock. We actually had a volunteer lose a bike while we were moving. One of the last loads that we took, we had one of our volunteers rode, locked his bike up on the street, a very visible street, with a U-lock. But if someone's determined to take your bike, they will take your bike. Write the serial numbers down. We've partnered with one of the bike shops in Vancouver, Bad Monkey, that and the Vancouver Police Department, that we write down the serial numbers of the bikes that we give to kids and register them so they can call up Bad Monkey if they forget their serial number. We can kind of offer maybe a little bit of tracking and hope to find another bike or their bike through that. But we tell kids, don't leave them outside. Don't think they're safe just sitting on your back porch in an apartment. Lock it up when it's on the back porch. Don't use a cable lock. Don't leave it outside overnight.
Yes, well, that's good advice, but and sad that you have to teach the kids that. Share the road is a common mantra with all of us cyclists. So what responsibilities do you see the cyclist as having with that?
I think they really have an extremely high responsibility to be good stewards of the road, that we're all sharing the same space, to try not to impede traffic. There's a lot of times where I don't take busy arterials that may even have a bike lane just because I don't want to be on it. There's enough traffic and enough, people getting in and out of cars and on the parking lane, and to ride your bike like you would drive your car, for one. Obey the rules. Don't stop at a stoplight and keep going through the red. Just because you stop doesn't mean it's right. And if there's a couple stoplights on your route that don't get triggered by you being on top of it, take a different route if you want to cut it. Take a stop sign so you can stop the stop sign, then go. And there's a few of those in Vancouver where it's tricky to get through sections.
Yes.
There's no green wave, so to speak. But you can mitigate that just by slowing down or taking a different route.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but that's a good idea, that one way of sharing the road is to take a more bicycle-friendly route and kind of alleviate some of the hassles for the motorists who might, like you say, open a door, or they've got their own problems, and if you're not even there, then you're sharing the road.
And you get a lot of problems with parking on both sides of a street. There's really not enough room for two large vehicles to go through. You've got a full-size pickup truck and a small economy car and then a cyclist. Well, there's not a whole lot of room to negotiate for the cyclist.
So right. So if we as cyclists think it out.
Yeah, and if you can keep up with traffic for the most part, and you're not impeding traffic, if you're not going 15 miles an hour double wide up in a 25-mile zone and blocking people, I like talking and socializing on the bike, but there's a time and place for it.
Yes, absolutely, and that is part of cycling. What would you share with viewers to encourage them to get themselves involved with Bike Clark County if they live up north?
I'd say look at our calendar. We're going to start posting some open shop days where people can come in and wrench on kids' bikes. We're also going to have our volunteer party coming up soon. But look at our site and get in touch with us.
What might volunteers do with when you work in the schools, at the middle schools?
They'd have to go through background check to volunteer in the public school. The volunteers that work with the PE teachers go through a nationally recognized course, either through like the Community Cycling Center and the Transportation Alliance. There's a few groups that have offered these, and we have volunteers that are certified to teach bike safety. And anyone can do it.
Yes, and it's a great example for the kids. And I like to ask this question. I asked it of Stephen Kung. If time and money weren't any kind of restriction, what would you do with Bike Clark County? Wave the magic wand?
I share Eric's vision in that if we could get bike safety education in every middle school in Clark County, that'd be a good start.
Uh-huh.
And we can't do it with just volunteers.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you get your helmets again?
Most of our helmets are purchased from donations.
Okay. I think I'm involved with Portland Wheelman. I think we've donated money.
Yeah, you do. Every year, Portland Wheelman is donated. The city also helps us out, but we also get a really good deal on helmets.
Yes.
The supplier gives us a wholesale rate, and we don't charge for helmets.
Yes.
But it's donations. We do some soliciting. We had a little event with Torque Coffee Roasters and Mighty Bowl, a couple little Vancouver small businesses that if they wrote in and gave a donation, they could get a 2-for-1 coffee, or if they wore their Bike Clark County volunteer t-shirt, they could get a free meal from Mighty Bowl. And we generated about $300 worth of donations towards helmets for that.
Oh, nice.
So we do a few things like that every year as well, and to get our face out there.
Yes, and that's always an issue. It's getting your face out there, being known.
You know, we really have a good volunteer group and a lot of volunteers to do mass events, but really what we're needing now is volunteers that would take more of a leadership role to initiate things and organize things.
Would this be programs that you already have in place and somebody to just kind of take it and run with it?
And expand with it, yeah.
So it's not like reinventing the wheel, but just kind of
refining what we have. And there's a couple other projects we'd like to do as well.
And can you tell us about those generally?
The fee for service is something we're exploring more. So we've actually are working a deal with the Historic Fort of Vancouver. They want to do bike camps during the summer. We have bike fleets. We don't have a lot of space to store them right now where we're at, so they're willing to store the bikes off site for us, and we'll teach their volunteers to do the bike safety clinics and the bike camps, and they can use the bikes. We'll get paid to do the service on them, and then we can have them stored off site but still have access during the 2 months of the end of the school year that we do the safety programs. So that's a real good start.
Yes, well, and I think that's a good example of how this is all a community. You know, it takes a village.
And it's involving, and you know, it's evolving. The more people want to get involved, the more successful it is. And when they see the impact, the broad impact that it has, because it's all neighborhoods. It's not just 1 or 2 neighborhoods.
Now, just briefly as we kind of wrap up here, you mentioned advocacy, and Vancouver kind of, I don't know, it pales sometimes to Portland, but yet they're working really hard to be a great bicycle town, and a lot of Portland rides go up there. What kinds of things are you trying to implement in Vancouver to make it a more bike-friendly community?
More connectivity with the bike lanes and with bike routes. The one problem that Clark County has is that although they build bike lanes in new construction, when new roads, it's often a bike lane to nowhere. So you have to figure out ways to get there that are safe, that don't have a ditch next to a fog line. That's a good part of it.
Now, I noticed Sharrows on Columbia yesterday, which I think that's
they're
relatively new.
Within the last week and a half, I saw them.
Yeah, And Columbia, for those that don't know, Vancouver is a pretty common north-south route. As you come off the interstate bridge, you hit Columbia, and you can
the
go
main
on up.
direct connector to Hazeldale and the Felida area. And I live up at the top of the hill on that.
Right. And then you can kind of veer off, go east and west.
And actually, I ride down Columbia a lot. I don't ride up it much.
Why is that?
Because I don't like riding in the traffic on it. And I'm not going as fast as I'm going downhill. It's that I'll just let them have the cars have the road and they don't have to deal with me, and I'll take one of the side streets, and it just doesn't take me, you know, 2 or 3 minutes longer to get home on Daniels or Franklin or one of the side streets where there's a lot more stop signs.
Yeah. And I've noticed too, as a cyclist on Columbia, you can never hit those green lights. You're stopping at every single
Well, and
light.
especially coming south from Mill Plain, the 2 on Mill Plain and then the one south of that. Yeah, that got me today coming here. You can get one, but you can't get the second one.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for coming and talking to us about Bike Clark County. And thank you for all you do in Bike Clark County.
Thanks.
We need those programs for all of us to.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. And I want to encourage all of you to, if you want to ride your bikes, Bruce and I lead bicycle rides. And if you missed Beaverton Banks and Beyond in August for some reason, I've got a birthday ride coming up on October 4th, and we're going to go out there and ride on the trail. And you can do whatever distance you want, but if you'd like kind of a little bit of a tour, a little bit of help to explore that area, please look at the Portland Wheelman Touring Club calendar, ride calendar, pwtc.com, and join me for the birthday ride. We'll start in Banks and go up that trail, and you can explore that area as well. It won't be quite as well supported as Beaverton Banks and Beyond, but we'll try to show you a good time. And Bruce Buffington, our producer here of Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, is going to be offering some slow poke rides. So again, go to that ride calendar for Portland Wheelman and try to find his rides, slow poke rides, Bruce Buffington. And if you're just getting into bicycling, those would be an excellent way to start. He's a good instructor and help you to learn skills and new routes around the Washington County area. So that would be a good time as well. And we're wrapping up our activities, and so thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us.